Hi. My timeline is still January 22nd. I just doing a lot of reflecting. I think I mentioned in the last video that a lot of people are reaching out to me to see how I'm doing, for advice, about like testing and for the LCSW exam, and advice on steps to take in life with positions. And most of the day really has been just reconnecting with people. Coincidentally, my tarot spread for the week and the messages that like the Chris's minnow pond, tarot and MJ. I haven't been paying attention to much of them. I'm selective, like I just, whenever my heart feels like I need it, I'll go to it. And when and that's what I love about her and Dana too, and now Chris too is acknowledging it too, the timeless nature of the messages, and just when you watch it, if they're titled or when you just come across it, it's because it was meant for you in that moment. So the ones the nugget of information that's been resonating with me is this sense of repairing old relationships, right? Of using this time to reflect and to be mindful of my word choices, right? Because it is a matter of perspective. And I'm looking at some of my old videos, and again, I'm grateful that I made that choice to have that space with the time frame, of my timeline versus when I actually post, because it as I'm preparing them, it's reminding me I'm still learning from myself about where I was in that moment in my life, and remembering, oh, that's right, I did say that. And keeping myself accountable, really keeping myself accountable for my mindset and some of the choices that I made at that time in my life because of where I was feeling. And like I said, we're fickle creatures. Like, one day we might, think of one way, and then tomorrow it just changes when you get a different perspective, or just life happens every moment. And so, you can change your mind in a moment, right? In an instant, or it could be this buildup, right? Of something within you just boiling, right? To a point of when it's like, when, depending on how much attention you put to it, if it's just kind of boiling, and you don't give it the attention that it needs, it's going to come out. I wonder if that's what that meant, that flame meant. One of the videos I'm reviewing was when I had the flame water right? And it's emotions, actions. Because flame is, taking action. Fire is representative, that's like action, right? Emotions are waves are emotions, or the ocean is emotions. And today, that's been the consistent theme in my conversations with people is when your heart and your mind are aligned, right? Action. When your heart and your mind are aligned, you'll know what to do. You'll know what steps to take. To listen to your heart. It's this repeated message all day. This repeated message of when your heart and your mind are aligned. Right? I didn't come up with that statement, by the way. Someone else did. I heard Chris from Menopon saying it, and it's been sticking in my head. But I know he took it from someone else. Because he listens to someone, Eckhart something, like an older gentleman, who I found out, like, someone else had brought him up, and then I asked, well, what's his degree? Like, what where's his knowledge base? Just a guy with a spiritual message, right? I asked him, and this other person, I asked him, like, well, what did he study? Like, how does he have a following? and then we looked him up, and like, oh, he doesn't have a degree, right? And so again, it's just this reinforcement, right? That you don't need a degree to validate your sense of worth, right? You don't need a position to validate your worth as a person, as what you can provide and how you can contribute to community. And that's also been a common theme in my conversations with people. It's just, reminding them, whether it's a position, whether it's a place of work, to not depend on outside things to validate who you are inside, right? If you're looking at your, if you're, like I do t-shirts, right? T-shirts design. I'm not depending my sense of self-worth on those creations. I'm just not. I know my self-worth. I don't need that. And it just, like if you're an artist, like, whatever you create, I hope that it doesn't, just because people don't buy your stuff or aren't leaning towards it, they have all these like arts and craft fairs and stuff, and I think that's part of that thick skin that people commonly say or talk about, that even like actors too, it's like knowing your worth, your talent, your gifts, your skills, knowing yourself well enough to know that just because you didn't get a part or just because you didn't sell, you're still enough, right? You didn't get that position, you're still enough. You're still enough. Just knowing, right? To look within, to listen to that little voice inside. Your heart will never fail you. And there's a difference between, like, learning to distinguish between, is this really where my heart is pulling me, and for what reason, right? Because sometimes we'll get caught up in like relationships where, oh, I just love this person, he completes me. And it's just like, well, a little self-reflection, like, what are you really trying to fulfill? Like, if he completes you, then that means you're not complete within yourself, So being in tune, going within. What is it that your heart is wanting? And if there's a sense of lack within you, what is that all about, right? Reflecting, going within, and asking yourself those tough questions, right? And asking other people too, like those tough questions about, asking tough questions, asking the questions. MJ said that, asking the questions, the tough questions. So I'm still learning. Gosh, I feel like I lost track of where I was going. There's this continued theme today about following your heart. continuing theme of me learning. Oh, perception, right? Word choices. Word choices. You know, being mindful of how I describe things, right? That was a concern of mine as people are asking me questions from my recent past, position, and just letting them know, like, I don't want to taint your experience. This was my experience, but considering all these factors that are involved, that I don't know if it'll still apply for you, right? And just encouraging them to go within, encouraging them to figure out what they truly want, and why they want this position, or whatever's right for them. Only they'll know. And if they have any questions, ask, right? And encouraging them to, if your heart is still being tugged to explore the possibility, hey, by all means, explore the possibility, right? Live a life with no regrets. And knowing, providing that reassurance within themselves, like, just because you explore doesn't mean you have to commit, right? You can continue to explore that option, ask questions, right? And then if it gets offered, you can always say no thanks, right? If it doesn't sit well after you get the answers you need to make your decision, right? As I'm talking, it's just all reflecting, like, oh, dang it. Still learning from my environment, right? And coincidentally, since we're on that topic, I came across another video where I'm talking about how much I'm appreciating the slow pace of stuff. But again, right, that fire in me is like, charge, like, let's move forward. And just remind myself, okay, remember, you appreciate the slow pace, right? You have things you need to take care of, right? Like, and remember, and I even put it on post-it so I wouldn't forget this time, what do I really want? What am I deserving of? And what am I ready for? That was a nice reminder for myself today on moving forward, right? The answer that I need was already within, and it helped to have these videos to reflect on. And then I'm thinking about MJ's message too. She's always encouraged journaling. At my old church, I was leading this group, and it was about prayer. Good book, by the way. The Circle Maker. But it also talks about prayer and journaling your prayers, right? And then being able to go back and kind of seeing, oh, what prayer was answered in what way. So it's like foreseer, right? It's another approach to being a foreseer. And it's all about too, like, it's all about his journey with just different examples of how he listened to his intuition, right? And how he listened to God. Really, that's what it is, right? Your heart and your heart, your mind, and light. You're connecting to God. You're receiving the messages within. You're learning to listen to your heart, right? And so he talks about it. It's just a different perception or perspective, but it's the same message. It's the same message. And of course, like, I'm all post-its, right? and notes. But it was a really good book. Really good book. Repairing relationships. So this week, right, someone from my past came and spent time with this person, focused on trying to repair that relationship. I hope I was successful. But knowing that it's still an area that I need to work on with this particular individual in my life, where I always feel like my energy is drained. And my weekly tarot spread also pointed out, like, repair relationships, learn something new, right? Perspective. It's all just tying in. It's guidance. And it's unfolding, right? An area that I know I need to still work on, because I can be self-righteous. I know that about myself, and because I know I'm more aware and I'm being more open to correcting and learning how to take a step back and say, okay, I looked at this wrong, or I said something, it didn't come out the right way, right? And apologizing and trying to repair, and it's that point in your life where you're bringing down those barriers, right? That I had to put up to protect myself from certain people because I didn't know how to interact with them without getting my energy drained, right? And oh, hey, it's the lighting from the computer that makes a difference on the. Anyways, yeah. So it's what was I saying? Uh, Relationships, repair, barriers. Yeah, yeah. Where when you're in what people call toxic relationships, unhealthy relationships, unbalanced relationships, right? You create barriers, right, to protect yourself, to really take a step back, to create space, right? To realize, am I in a safe environment? Is this relationship serving me in a positive way where it's helping me move forward? Or is it holding me back, right? And maybe even looking at it that way too. Now that I'm saying it out loud, is it serving me or is it holding me back? The duality in that, right? Is it serving me or is it holding me back? What's the middle ground? I mean, some things you do have to let go of, right? But what does that mean, let go? I wrote it down on another post-it. I asked myself that question, like, does letting go mean creating space between us? Finding a different way to balance. And reflecting back and seeing, in that situation or in that relationship, can you find a balance, right? Are you able to find a balance? And if you're not able to find a balance, if you're not able to create that balance again, maybe that's when you have to kind of really go to that other extreme, right? And say, I gotta let this go. Because I've tried to find a balance and it's just not working. And your body will tell you when you've had enough, when you can't do it anymore, and you just have to walk away from it for the time being, right? And what there's always that possibility of revisiting it with you being transformed, right? To where you can create those boundaries and say, I'm not going to do this anymore in that relationship or in that situation. I'm going to respond differently. Which makes sense, because that's what Chris from Menopause said today. That's what he said today in one of the messages, was the sense of like, don't give up on something. You've already learned the lesson. You've already graduated, right? You already know what boundaries and what limits you're setting and how you're going to navigate the situation, but to not give up. That resonated with me today. In terms of the answer that I needed for like, that song goes into my head. How does that song go? Should I wait or should I go? Do I wait or do I go? Is that song? It's like a old school alternative song. I don't remember what it's called. Maybe I'm mixing the words. Should I wait or should I go now? Anyways, yeah, maybe that's the answer that I needed, right? which makes sense because that's like what I've always, like I have, not always, because there's doubt, right? With all the synchronicities, like just, making sense. In a weird way, it's all making sense. Anyways, that was the continued theme. Realization, right? Continue working on myself. So, I don't know, I guess, but first realizing my work is still not done, right? Learning doesn't end. Lifelong learner. Made that commitment a long time ago. Still happening. Still growing. Yay! Still growing. So, yeah, that was it. Nothing else to report. I'll talk to you guys later.